Well, hello there team, it's Woodsy Man and I'm back again, and you can see here that I am doing some sanding. So this is the top of the table that I'm making for my friend to wrap around his sofa, and even though the table is going to be L-shaped, it's all coming out of this one piece, so eventually I'll be chopping the end off that, sticking it on the side to make an L shape. What I'm doing right now is I'm just flattening it. It's already pretty flat. I've taken off, the bulk of it with a jack plane, and now I'm getting my belt sander out and taking it down as quick as I can with probably a 40 grit, quite a rough, bit of sandpaper on the belt there. I've done one side, I've wetted it so that as it dries the grain will pop and I get a nice finish. So flipped it over, doing the other side, just removing some tape that I had on to stop my epoxy flowing all over the floor. It was a bit gooey, so I was having a bit of trouble with that. But carrying on now with the 40 grit. That's that. As you use the 40 grit, it's taking the material down so quickly there. You can see all the dust flying around, and even though I'm outside, I'm wearing a face mask there to keep the dust out the lungs. Shredded a belt there, so replaced it with another one. And it's just a case of getting that material down as flat as I can. And using 40 grit does leave some big old scratches, so got to come back. Cup of tea time, and I'm back. Scribbling on the board so I can see where I've been, so you don't want to miss bits, and I must have a little damp patch there because I'm just drying it with my heat gun. And sanding, just going over the whole surface at this stage. You see the dog running around in the background. That's Buddy the Beagle. He's one of the laziest dogs I've ever met. He doesn't even get off the sofa to say hello anymore. But he's getting on a bit. You can tell by his white face. Okay, so again, heat gun, just drying the wood out. Obviously I can let it dry naturally, but I've got this heat gun and it just speeds things up, make sure it dries, the grain pops, and I can get on. Now I've got the old spirit level out just to check for flatness, and I've noticed that it is very much cupped, meaning there's a high spot in the middle, so it's like a humpback bridge. Not as exaggerated as that, but I've got to work on the middle only to try and take that hump out. Oh, and the missus is back. Chit chat. Dog's pleased to see her. And we all go for lunch, including the dog. Okay, so it's a bit later on now, and I flipped the board over, and now, oh no, I haven't flipped the board over. Still taking the material out from the middle to try and get rid of that hump. Of course, when I do flip it over, that's the other side of the board, it's cupped like a U shape, like a valley. So I've actually got to take material off the sides to bring the edges down. But I think I've got it flat now, so it's a case of going over the whole thing in probably a higher grit. So I started on 40 to really take that material away, and now I've probably gone to 80, I suspect. And you use that to get rid of the horrible marks left by the 40 grit. It's not subtle, that 40 grit, and it does leave big old gouges in your wood, so you want to get rid of those fairly quickly. So no point skipping a step and going to 120 or anything like that. You go up the grits, sort of 40, 80, 120, 150, somewhere like that. This is the other side now, so as I said, I'm taking the edges off because it's a bit of a valley there. I'm checking it for flat again, keep going. It's a dirty job, but it's got to be done. Just having a problem with how the old belt sander, you can see perhaps on the belt itself, it's sort of sliding off the rollers and rubbing on the body of the belt sander. It's because that front knob wasn't adjusted properly, so I had to take care of that, which I've done. There goes the dog again. Scribble, text. Don't know who I'm texting. And now probably a higher grit, so back to 80 or something like that. Going over the whole board, removing the nasty scratches left by the 40 grit and replacing them with scratches left by the 80 grit, which are, of course, less obvious. And after the 80 grit, I'm going to go probably to, at this stage, 120 and call it a day. Obviously, for the finished piece, I will take it to 250 or 300 or somewhere around there. But there's no point doing that now because I'm still working on it and it gets knocked and banged and cut and all the rest of it. What I'm doing here is I'm filling in little woodworm holes and little blemishes with some what they call CA glue, which I think is just super glue, but I got this from Cam at Blacktail Studios. Check out their channel. And he says it's CA glue with activator. So that's what I searched on Amazon, and that's what they sent me. I think it's just super glue though, but I couldn't figure out if that was actually the case. Anyway, scribble, 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 so I can see where I've been. And now, because I'm going to the higher grit, so probably 120 now, so I've gone 40 and 80 with the belt sander. Now I want to start putting a nicer finish on it, so I've gone to the orbital sander. And my orbital sander is getting a bit old now and a bit rubbish, and some of the Velcro hooks don't grip like they used to, so sometimes the sandpaper actually flies off. It's also pretty cheap sandpaper, but I've got a really good deal on it. Everybody on the YouTubes says it's better to spend more money on better sandpaper that lasts longer. I don't know if that's true, but oh look, I was doing a funny thing with my arm there, a little bit of animation. Probably because I was very bored, because this sanding isn't the most... Oh, found another hole. This sanding isn't the most interesting thing, and it does take some time, but if you want it to look nice and you want to get a good finish, you've just got to do it. And it takes some time just to get rid of the pencil marks, but that's why they're there, so you can see where you've been and you know that you've taken that material down a 1/10 of a millimetre or whatever it would be. You haven't just skimmed over it and missed bits. And even then, it's still good sometimes to get like a strip light and shine it on there and get down low so you can see any blemishes and stuff. But at this stage, I'm not too worried about that. So that's one side done. I've now got to do the other side. But after this one, then I'm going to call that a day. So it's gone to 120, and that's good enough while I'm still working on the piece, because I've got to then get it to the right shape. I've got to cut it and all the rest of it, and that's coming up in the video. So anyway, I hope this voiceover hasn't been too annoying. I thought I would do it rather than just leaving you listening to elevator music and watching me sand things. Right, but I am going to leave you some music now, so here's a bit of background music. So that's done. Now let's go in here, because the lights on. Because these have been sat for about a day now, for 24 hours. Yes, I know you know what a day is, so we'll take them out, shall we? Look! One. Two. Made a thing. Look at that. That's the narrow end. Look at that. Bits of table. So that's going to be one set, and that's the second set, about that big. It's actually starting to look like it's a thing. Problem. I think I've miscalculated somehow. I always do this. Look, this piece here, this long piece, essentially, I know it curves there, right, but essentially it comes all the way down. So it's a rectangle that's 2 foot there, 24 inches, and then 1 foot 2, so that's 14 inches. 24 plus 14 inches. 24 plus 14, that's 36 inches. And then, so that's for that rectangle. Then I need this piece on the end, which is 1 foot 2, which is the same width. So just chop a piece off the end, but it's got to be 10 inches. So the whole length of the board needs to be 36 plus 10, 46 inches. Well, it is 46 inches. Wait a second. Do that again, Andrew. 2 foot, 3 foot 2. 3 foot 2, so 38. $12, 24 plus 12, so it's 38 inches. There, so it goes to 48 inches. So I've got no spare room at all. Because I just did, yeah. Because 2 foot plus 1 foot 2 isn't 36, it's 38. That's where I went wrong. Maths. Well, a point in maths, sir. Well, being able to add up apparently is a good thing. Now, I have got enough if I spare nothing. This cut has to be spot on, so I've put on the superfine glue edge blade onto the old circular saw, and that's going to run along there, and I can't afford any cock-ups at all, and then I'll just about be fine, I think. I mean, that's a lovely edge, so that's good. And then that has got to go there. Okay, and that's going to be the table. Now, currently it's too wide, so I do have to trim off the edges, which I'm going to do next to get it to be the right size. Also to give a nice glue edge. So I better do that. Oh, I should have done that first. What a muppet. Anyway, I haven't done that first, so I'm just going to have to do it now. I've got to get it to pretty much the exact dimensions. Going to cut it a little bit thick, but not too much. All right, let's try that. So there it is. That's what's got to come off. That'll leave me 2/16 to play with. So I've marked those up. Now I'm going to attach the straight edge. Make sure I get it right first time. So I'll stick you on the time lapse for that. Hello, so back again for another bit of voiceover. Just taking you through to the end here. I'm just taking off the edges of these two boards. I wish I'd done it when they're all in one piece. It would have been a lot easier, a lot more straightforward, but didn't think of that at the time. So I'm doing it now, and you can see it's a bit fiddly there. And then I've got to get the two pieces to marry up, but it's not that simple because even though you want your circular saw to be perfectly 90 degrees, it never really is. So I had to do a bit of tweaking to get the edges to marry up nicely and get a good glue joint in there, but I managed it in the end, and I'm sparing you a lot of that fiddling around. Plenty of glue on, get them in the clamps, and that is it. And that's going to be it for this episode. leaving that to glue, and in the next episode we'll be moving on to the next bit. So thanks for watching, see you next time.